Hey, this is C&D channel. I'm Chris. This is Dave. This is MMA for you. We're gonna be doing our MMA Q&A today.
Very good question. But before we can do that, we need a thanks to our sponsor, GoBusiness123.com. GoBusiness123.com is a specialized firm to marketing, advertising, and web design. If you want to know more, go to GoBusiness123.com.
Cool, man. Okay, what is the question, Dave?
Well, this is a very controversial question. Everybody's asking, well, they're saying, do you consider the UFC middleweight? UFC middleweight. Everybody think they are weak. What do you think?
You know what, man? I'm not of the opinion that the UFC Middleweight Division is a weak or thin division.
Well, but people believe, there are people saying that this is a weak division. Why?
Well, I want to make something clear. I think that there's a really big misconception here.
Okay.
With like lightweight or welterweight, they're what's defined as stacked.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if a division isn't stacked, people want to designate it as weak or thin. And I don't subscribe to that theory. I do believe that there is a middle ground here. I think there is also like a solid division as well.
So you actually say beside the top and the bottom there's the middle.
There is, yes.
Okay, well that's why it's middleweight, right?
Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think the middleweight... I want to make this very clear before I say anything else.
Okay.
The middleweight division is not a stacked division. However, I don't think it's a weak division either. But I'd like to say it's somewhere in the middle. Like, it's a very solid division. It's not stacked. It's not weak. It's somewhere more towards the middle.
Okay. What do you think this illusion coming from? Why will audience start think, this division, it looks like a weak division?
Anderson, the Spider Silva.
I was going to say that. I believe that. I think Anderson Silva really clown everyone so much that people think that this division is just weak.
Exactly. I think that Anderson Silva's too good, and he's made the division pretty much his playground. That I think it kind of gave this illusion that like, oh, it's such a weak division,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people use that meme in order to like discredit Anderson as well. Oh, well, Anderson's only doing as well as he's doing because it's such a weak division, and I'm like, if you actually look at it in detail and comparably to other divisions and whatnot, it's not that weak. Middleweights aren't doing anything differently to get a title shot that, say, welterweights are doing. They beat top 10 guys. They prove that they can beat a lot of mid-tier guys, and they beat a top-tier guy. Usually, they get a title shot. Every division's like that.
Mm-hmm.
Most top 10 fighters like that.
I know.
And that's the thing. Middleweight's no different. And a lot of people want to give this, subscribe to this theory that, like, somehow middleweight's different in that sense.
It's thematic. It's nothing different. But
Exactly.
the problem is, after you fight with so many people, you go to Anderson Silva. Guess what? The guy give you the performance that you are stink.
You know what? Here's the thing, though. Like, I'll say this. Middleweight doesn't have, like, the strong plethora of wrestlers that, say, like, welterweight has.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say the strongest wrestler is Chael Sonnen, who's a very good wrestler. He's always had a weakness for submissions, though.
But now I look at if him by himself, he's a very good fighter. But all of a sudden you put him and Anderson Silva. The quick thing I remember is he beat out Anderson Silva 200 times and then they can't even knock him down. All of a sudden I have low value with the middleweight people because you can't beat Anderson Silva.
Well, you know what? I don't see what Chael Sonnen does offensively, not defensively, offensively, than the number 2 guy in welterweight in John Fitch.
Mm-hmm.
Like, honestly, what, takedown, stay busy ground and pound.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Chael Sonnen just finished Brian Stann in his last fight by arm triangle. He actually passed guard and stuff. It's kind of offensively, not defensively, but offensively. I really don't think that like a Chael Sonnen, skill wise, does that much different than say than a John Fitch.
Well, I agree.
Except defensively. Defensively, Sonnen keeps getting submitted, and John Fitch doesn't. Obviously.
Well, I agree with you. I think Chael Sonnen is good by himself. I mean, he is not doing anything different. I mean, I agree with you. Every division is doing the same way to get a title shot. Every people who win is doing the same way to win. The problem is just back to the problem. Anderson Silva is just so good, and he make everybody look like idiot, and he make audience look no one can compete with him. And he even feel like it's boring. All of a sudden, how is the audience will have a confidence with the middleweight call?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that also goes to the idea of name value opponents as well, though, too. Like.
I mean, name couple name value people in, that's like welterweight.
Okay, there's John Fitch, obviously, Thiago Alves, Matt Hughes, Josh Koscheck.
Look how easy that is.
Yeah.
There's somebody in middleweight.
But Sonnen's like probably their most noteworthy name, really.
Yeah.
Vitor Belfort is probably the only other one. I mean, I don't think many people know about Yushin Okami very much. I think they might be familiar with Nate Marquardt, who's on in the UFC. They know Lieben, but he's not a top 10 guy.
Exactly.
They know Bisbing, but he's barely in the top 10.
I mean, you look at the heavyweight, look at the Brock Lesnar, whoa, big name. All of a sudden, that division sounds strong. You look at middleweight, there's not a lot of name value.
There really isn't a lot of name value guys. The only, like I said, Michael Bisping, the only problem... Okay, wait. There's not a lot of name value guys in the top 10. There we go. Because Vanderlei Silva and Chris Lieben are pretty name value guys, except they're not consensus top 10 guys.
Exactly.
And
the funniest thing is, those are the guys who've been in the UFC for a while, and they are actually have a lot of fight compared to heavyweight.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Why I don't feel it's a weak division. You have a lot of guys in their top 10, whether it's Vitor, Chael, Yushin Okami, that have been fighting for a while.
Mm-hmm.
They have consistently shown that they beat mid-tier guys and have shown that they can even beat like one top 10 guy or more. If you look at something like heavyweight that is known to be a thin division, you have champions that with less than 10 fights.
You have Brock Lesnar, everybody cheer for how many fights he has.
I think he has like 8 fights now.
Yeah, 6 wins, 2 losses. All of a sudden, people worship him. I mean, he's really good, but the name value, it just makes him out there,
Yeah. The other thing is, if you look at heavyweight, they're what I like to call top heavy. It's that their top 10 is actually relatively strong, but then there's this huge drop off between the top tier guys and the guys after that. Czech Congo is their mid tier guy. He's not very well rounded. If you look at middleweight, the drop off's actually not that bad. If you look at middleweight, you have like top 10 guys, and then their mid tier guys are like what? Ed Herman, pretty solid. Dan Miller, he's pretty much their gatekeeper. He's a pretty solid guy. That's the thing. There's some solid guys in that middle area, and there's a good amount. There's a good quantity of it, because a lot of people, when you talk about stacked, you talk about quantity. There's a good quantity of mid-tier guys. There's a good quantity of top-tier guys. There's a good quantity of lower-tier guys. It's not like heavyweight, or especially like bantamweight, where like I can name some of the top fighters, and I can't even name like 5 middle guys. I can name like Mizugaki, Escovedo. I mean Michael McDonald. I guess like I can't even name 5 mid-tier or lower-tier bantamweights because they don't have a large quantity after the top guys of that tier of fighters. That's the thing.
Okay, I agree with you, but also when you do a comparison, there's another problem is, you're right, the middleweight have a good quality, but if you go into...
It's not stacked, though. I want to make it very clear. It's not stacked.
You look at welterweight stack.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just like, when your middle of the pack is like Anthony Rumble Johnson, Johnny Hendrick, Mike Pierce, and you have these like amazing guys that are in the middle, that are like, they have so many up and comers, and that's where welterweight. That's why I don't think that middleweight is stacked, because they don't have too many up and comers. They have like Chris Weidman.
I mean,
yeah.
Like you said, the very good point, up and comer. I mean, what kind of up and comer do we have in the middleweight?
It's very small. That is also why I don't say it's stacked. And that, I guess, could be used as an argument to argue that it's thin. I still think it's around the middle. You have Chris Weidman is a very good up and comer. Constantino Filippo just beat Jorge Rivera. Court McGee. There aren't. I'll Alan Belcher. He's actually a really good up and comer. He's been around for a while too, and he looks like he's gonna break into the top 10, pretty much in his next fight. Brian Stan was pretty much an up and comer. He's now in that top 10. Munoz forever was an up and comer. Now he finally broke into that top 10 as well. But
you just mentioned a whole bunch of people.
Well, here's the problem. Brian Stan and Munoz really aren't considered up and comers anymore because they're like top fighters now.
I mean, the fact is, when we do the show, and every now and then we can say, "Oh, a new up and comer." I mean, most of the time we mention about non-middleweight.
Yeah, well, like I said, the amount of prospects, the argument against, the argument for middleweight being weak, I can definitely, there's an argument that because they don't have a lot of prospects, that it's not very strong. However, counter argument here. Okay, in light heavyweight, if you actually look at light heavyweight, John Jones came up, obviously.
No, John Jones came up.
He's huge. But the fact of the matter is, in light heavyweight, it's considered a pretty stacked division. The fact of the matter is, they actually have not had any new blood in there for a while.
Well, you got a lot of top 10 big names. I mean,
see, that's the other thing too. The name thing. It goes back to the name thing.
Okay, give me 5 guys really easy.
Yeah, Rashad, Rampage, Shogun, Machida, Forrest Griffin.
I mean, the fact is, you got a guy who's actually in the movie Rampage. You got you have a name value everybody knows.
Yeah.
And then, you got Machida, which was a legendary, and nobody can figure him out. And now, you got so many people that has a good name value. You go back to middleweight, again, it's like Southern.
Sonnen and Vitor Belfort, really, that's pretty much it.
And then there's a sort of treated like a toy, and then how can you expect the audience respect the middleweight, the way that middleweight should be treated,
Yeah, exactly. And well, I want to do the comparison though to light heavyweight because there's a prospect thing, right? Well, guess what? In a stacked division like light heavyweight, there's Phil Davis, Alexander Gustafsson, and that's it. I mean, after that, the prospects get really weak. You have like Kyle Kingsbury and Fabio Maldonado, and then you have a bunch of lower tier guys. I'm gonna be honest. I can't really say in the UFC that light heavyweight, which is considered a stacked division, has many up and comers. Which is the same as middleweight. And yet light heavyweight seen as a stacked division, and middleweight a lot of people say is a weak division. It seems but like there's some sort of double standard there.
Okay. So basically, you believe that middleweight should be right in the middle. First of all, compared to a lightweight doesn't have as
A light
many
heavyweight.
light heavyweight. You just compare. Everybody think light heavyweight is stacked, but
It is in the sense that like they have a lot of really good fighters. Like that you recognize. Generally on the top. There's actually starting to build a drop off after the top, where there's some mid tiers and lower tiers. I can't name too many. Honestly, there's like Stefan Bonner, I think, is a mid tier guy, and Krzysztof Szynski. But like I can't, like it's that same idea where like, there's a really strong top 10 with name value. And there's a lot of name value fighters in there. Reg Franklin, Tito Ortiz.
But yeah.
Forrest Griffin, Little Nogueira,
But you say, once you go to the middle, it's certain drop and
Yeah.
The
It's similar to middleweight, actually.
but on the middleweight we actually it's not that bad because you have Dan Miller, you have
Yeah. You have Ed Herman, Aaron Simpson.
So you have a division we call stack. It's the same as a middleweight, except the other one just have more name value.
That's what I believe. I mean, you can make the argument that the quality of light heavyweights is stronger, and I guess there's an argument for that. I'd say Rashad Evans, Shogun, Machida, Rampage.
Yeah, actually very strong. Man.
They're very well-rounded guys. But like, my only problem with that is like I think that like Yushin Okami, Chael Sonnen, Nate Marquardt if he was still there, Vitor Belfort, they're very strong fighters in their own right too. I don't, obviously you'd never be able to tell which one's better. Oh, I think like Machida would kill a lot of those guys.
That's another thing. I mean, you go to the, light heavyweight. You pick out any guys over there. And they can really kick your butt in the middleweight.
Yeah. I would say so. I would think they do.
So in a way, does that mean middleweight's not that strong?
Okay, well here's the thing. So the thing with people going down in weight, if this were the case, then not every light heavyweight that goes down to middleweight becomes a top fighter. Okay, if that were the case, Jason Lambert would be a top 10 middleweight then. He used to fight at 205. Now he fights, then he cut down to 185.
Good point.
Goran Reljic fought at 205, beat Wilson Gove, went down, lost to Kendall Grove and CB Dollaway.
I mean, you have a very valid point.
So, I mean, there's always going to have some guys that are going to do very well who cut down. Like, Tim Bosch is now on a 2-fight win streak and is, like, pretty solid. Jared Hammond just went down. He beat CB Dollaway. He was losing the fight until then. But, other guys like Steve Cantwell. Okay, he just went down. He fought Mike Macenzio. Macenzio just beat Steve Cantwell. Okay, so you can't say that, like, every light heavyweight that goes down to middleweight is going to be a top fighter. We've seen guys like Munoz, Stan, Tim Bosch become very good fighters moving down. But that happens that happens a lot, John Fitch wasn't actually a natural welterweight. He fought as high as 205. I think he fought Wilson Galea at 205. Josh Koscheck on The Ultimate Fighter, if I'm not mistaken, he fought at 185. Same with Diego Sanchez.
I got your point. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
to wrap this thing out, you truly believe middleweight should be right in the middle.
Yeah, I like to use the term solid. It's a very solid division. It's not stacked. I want to make that very clear. Middleweight is not a stacked division. but
It's not thin.
it's not a thin or weak division. From what I see from the division, there's nothing that leads me to believe that it's a really thin division. And obviously it's not stacked. I'm not blind or anything. I can tell it's not a stacked division. But I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think it's just a solid division.
And you think the reason it make that way is, first of all, name value.
Yeah.
Second of all, Anderson Silva.
Mm-hmm.
And third of all, it's just the tier, system. It just we don't have a lot of tier in our division. We have a lower tier. We should have a little bit more middle tier, a little bit more.
Well, it's just not stacked. The tiering system is actually, once again, it's solid.
Mm-hmm.
There's a good quantity of fighters in the top tier, in the mid tier, in the lower tiers.
But
okay.
Not stacked.
But it's not like a stacked quantity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. A lot of it's quantity too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree. I somehow I still feel, my personal opinion on this, I still feel middleweight is middle but close to weak.
Yeah.
I still think, the fact it's not stacked, the fact that Chael Sonnen is your number 2 guy and he cannot knock down, and then the Anderson Silva making like a kid, it's just not helping, man.
Yeah, I know it doesn't help, but when John Jones makes Shogun, who was the number 2 guy, number 1 guy, look super bad, and GSP has made John Fitch, and a lot of these dominant champions make people look bad.
But you have Shogun go fight with Machida, have a nice tough fight,
mm-hmm.
and you have.
But then when Shogun fought John Jones, and he got destroyed.
But the problem is John Jones is tough, but you have all the good name value stack afterward.
Exactly.
And so as GSP is super strong, but Fish they has another stack.
Yeah, exactly. And you recognize these names too. You recognize Diego Sanchez.
You got name value, you got a stack, and you have a Chael Sonnen with his stack.
Yeah, and that one's not stacked. You can only name 3 middleweights. Probably Anderson.
Yeah, that's why I see. But I agree with you. They are solid. They are weakly solid, but they are not weak. They are not just weak. I don't believe they are weak.
Yeah, I believe that like a division like the bantamweight, the UFC bantamweight division is a truly thin or weak division. They have some top guys that are very good, like Faber, Benavidez, Demetrius Johnson. But when you drop off from that like top 10 or even like top 7, so I don't even know who the top 10 is. I can't even name too many middle tier guys. I really can't. I can think of like, like 4 maybe, like Mizuga.
Don't hurt your brain because it's hard. Yeah. It's very hard.
And then when you look at heavyweight, it's once again it's top heavy. But then when you go to like the mid tier guy is like Chuck Congo, extremely one dimensional guys. You have a lot of one dimensional fighters, in heavyweight, and it's very obvious that they're one dimensional guys.
Alright, so to this question, do you consider UFC middleweight division to be weak division? And your answer is no.
No, I don't think it's weak. I don't think it's stacked, but I don't think it's weak either.
Alright, you guys need to let us know, what do you think? Leave in a comment, let me know whether this guy is insane or you agree with him.
Okay, thanks, man.
Leave comments, please.
Cool. And yeah, that's pretty much it for MMA for you guys.
Take care.
Take care.